Welcome back to another episode of Ignite, Empower, Transform, where we interview community leaders who take time to better our community and influence our children. In this episode, we are going to talk to Hosea Givan. Welcome to the show, Hosea.
Thank you, sir.
Hosea, without wasting time, I'd like you to give us a little insight as to who you are and what you do in the community.
Thank you, sir. What's up, Larry?
All right.
Let me start with my parents. I grew up in a household where my mom and dad were very involved in the community. My father was a community leader. My mom was very involved with us in the PTA, whatever basketball league team that we were involved with. She would always come to our games. I was involved with parents that were very involved with the community. And I think that really impacted me. You know, seeing my dad, he started a basketball league, seeing how he was able to kind of galvanize men and positive energy into this league and have the kind of profound impact that it had on the community. It was.
What encouraged him to do that?
Well, he was a coach, okay. and I played with him and other men in East Harlem. It was the East Harlem Biddy Basketball League. Okay. In I won't say the year. Well, I'll say the year. What the heck? 1969. And so my dad started out there. He saw the model that they used in East Harlem, and he brought it to our community in Hollis, Queens.
Gotcha. Okay. And once that league sort of dissolved, what was next? And where did you kind of come in here?
Well, I had gone on to college, and I graduated in '82, about the time that the program ended, and I started getting involved in politics when I got back from school. And I got involved with Assemblyman Albert Van out in Brooklyn at the recommendation of my mother and her best friend, Vivian Yearwood. They suggested I connect with Al Van, who at the time was probably the most powerful black politician in New York City. Okay. He happened to be one of my fraternity brothers, Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity. And I met with him. He liked me. I liked him, and he kind of, took me on as a mentor. And so I got very involved with some voter registration projects that we had already started. My group, I had a group of guys that I was involved with, some of my fraternity brothers. Okay. We would go out and do voter registration. And that's he kind of noticed us as we were kind of needing to kind of connect with him. So gotcha. we kind of caught each other at the right time. But this is also around the time that Jesse Jackson was running for president in 1984, so the prelim to that. So our crew was very involved with helping to kind of generate some energy for that campaign.
And how long did you stay in politics, at least in that aspect of politics?
Well, I was with Van for a couple of years, and then I went to CW Post. And
I'm familiar with that school.
Yes, sir. That's where we met.
That's where we met.
And I worked on my master's. I got my master's degree in education. Okay. And became first I was a teacher, a special education teacher, and then I became a guidance counselor.
So upon leaving CW Post, what's your next move?
From Post, I went to started out as a teacher in the South Bronx. Okay. I was over on PS 55 on 172nd in Washington.
In Washington, is that over near Vice and Hoe Avenue area over there?
Not too far. Okay. Not too far. And I did that for 1 year. Then I was a teacher in Brownsville at IS 271. And then I became a guidance counselor because you have to go through certification, you have to take the test, you have to be called, your number has to be called, and I became a guidance counselor in the Bronx, in Soundview area, where I actually live today. Okay. So I was at PS 108. You're probably familiar with 108 because you're on the other side.
Right. Watson Avenue.
Right. So it's right there on Story Avenue, and that's where we started, man. So I was there for about a year and a half, and then David Dinkins was running for mayor. So I got involved with politics again, doing some fundraising for David Dinkins, working on his advance team. And got connected with Al Van again, and David Dinkins won as mayor, and Al Van was the chairman of the Black and Puerto Rican Legislative Caucus up in Albany. Okay. And he asked me to come up there as his executive executive director of the Black and Puerto Rican Caucus. So I was up there as a caucus director for 2 years. One of the initiatives that we were involved with was the Black Male Initiative. And what we did while we were there was focus attention on the challenges dealing with African American men throughout the state of New York. We held public hearings. One was picked up by the New York Times. We did it live on WBLIB. And it was a public hearing at the Apollo Theater, which was kind of
Okay, so let's fast. I don't know if we want to call this fast forward or go back, because I know you're involved with the Give Back for Kids campaign, which we have displayed here. You do the Alpha Eagles Boys Club. It was the mentorship program.
Correct.
Let's talk about those things a little bit. Letting people know what they are, how they can be involved, and where you're taking these things.
Well, let's start with the National Give Back for Kids campaign. That was something that I started with my wife, my good friend Scott Pierce, his family, and a couple other people, Ike, Lisa. They were very instrumental in helping us get off the ground. Jeff Smith out of Chicago, Warren Dews out of Massachusetts. They were part of the founding group of that organization. And its focus is to motivate and inspire people to give back, get more people involved with young people, creating a sense of obligation to get involved with young people. What we saw, or what I saw working in the school system, working with kids, and just being in the community all the time is, I recognize that on the grassroots level, we don't have the same kind of community leadership that existed when I was a kid. When I was a kid, we had a lot of men that got involved with young people, got involved with young men, primarily through sports. We had a lot of leagues and basketball teams. We didn't have mentoring programs and things like that. We had coaches.
Right.
And these men were involved with I played on 30 or 40 teams when I was a kid throughout my years. So that means I had to have at least 15 to 20 different coaches. So that means there were a lot of men that were involved and active and engaged and wanting to impact positively with these young men.
So you stated the grassroots kind of organizations, and like you, I think when you say grassroots, you're kind of thinking community, you're thinking grounded, you're thinking fully immersed. And then there's always that shift because you need financing, you need recognition, you need things like that, and you get these corporate sponsorships. And a lot of times these corporations see something in that individual and they start pulling them away from that. How have you seen that impacting these organizations, these grassroots organizations?
Okay, I think that, let me use my example, because I can relate to what you just said. So one of the things that I was involved with was the creation of the Nike Switchbacks Basketball League. And so one of my high school...
And I'm sorry, was Nike involved with this directly?
This was Nike's. So Nike was the primary sponsor, and my high school buddy, another one of my fraternity brothers, Jerry Erasme, knew what we were doing in Southeast Queens in terms of with a program that I started. My father's basketball league, Hollis Biddies, was resurrected under the banner of I Love Our Youth.
Gotcha.
That's another program that I started in '93. So he came out and saw what we were doing, and we talked about creating a summer basketball league for New York City. And so, to your point, what happened is a lot of my energy and focus went into the development of the Nike Switch Basketball League, which was a great basketball league. But looking back in retrospect, it definitely took me away from my initial goals in terms of development of the youth basketball league that I was trying to create, and which we created. And so in some ways it was progressive in that we were able to establish a relationship with a corporation, a major corporation, but it also kind of, their agenda became my agenda. And so it kind of did take me away. So I can directly relate, you know. So were we providing a positive program for young people in the summer through the basketball league? Absolutely. So it was a great program. But it took me years to kind of get to some of the things that I wanted to do through the program that I created, because ultimately we had a third grade team that was like number 2 in the country.
Okay.
You know, so that was kind of
Pretty
where
good.
I wanted to go, and I thought that would be good for the community. Once I got away from the Nike program, I was able to kind of get back to that, and then we had pretty good results when we did.
So one of the things that gets me is, you know, we have the community, well, not just community, society. The first thing they want to say is, especially with our inner city youth, is the first thing we want to do is put them in basketball, a sport, or entertainment. It's always that. Knowing you, I know there was more behind it than just sports and entertainment.
Absolutely.
You know, let's give the audience some of that stuff, because I don't want people to walk away from this program and go, okay, you know, more black kids or Hispanic kids playing basketball, you know, and playing instruments, you know.
Right. So for us, basketball is a carrot. You know, that's how you draw them in. But it's really, you know, you're really trying to develop leaders. That's the focus of our programs, and trying to develop warriors, man. You know, we need young men and women that are going to be out here fighting for their community, taking charge in their community. We need more of that, as I mentioned earlier. So, although we use basketball as a carrot to draw them in, we have leadership development aspects to the program where we hold them accountable academically. We hold them accountable in terms of their responsibilities at home, making sure they do their chores. We develop a relationship, a partnership with their parents. We develop a partnership with their schools. So we make sure that they're on point at home and at school. And then we bring in speakers. We have speakers that come in and talk about things that we feel they need to know in terms of leadership development skills and qualities and mindsets that we're trying to impart to them.
Excellent. I mean, I think that's really important. Every person that I've interviewed to this point, that's one of the points we try to hit, is how you take not only the fun part of what you're doing, but how you incorporate the education, because I think a lot of times our children are missed by that. They figure if they learn to jump high and shoot a basketball or run, you know, the 100-yard dash in, you know, 4 point whatever seconds, then, you know, they've done it, they've made it. But it's that fallback, and I think it's important to keep that education up front. You being an educator,
No question.
I think that's important to you as well.
Absolutely.
So that's a little bit about the Give Back program.
But before we leave that, I think the one of the main aspects of the Give Back program that I think we really need to make sure that we illuminate and shed some light on is the fact that we have been able to get fathers involved with the program, and men, black men and Hispanic men in these communities involved back with their community. So that was the ultimate goal, to kind of get our communities involved, men engaged and involved with these kids. So as we talk about the need to create leaders within our young people, it's also important that we identify current leaders in the community and give them status and give them significance and relevance, and have them understand how they can impact their community. So we've been able to do that successfully, and that's one of the things that we're most proud of.
So the response from the men in the community has been pretty good.
Oh yeah,
it's been pretty good.
Yeah.
And you, I mean, can you speak to any particular guy? It doesn't have, you don't have to give a name, but just some of the credibility that they brought to the program in terms of bringing them back into the community. I mean, and when we say into the community, I know you don't mean they're showing face, but they're actually getting up off their sofas, you know, out of the bar or wherever they are, and they're coming to these children and showing action. Let's talk about that.
We live in a world today where I think that so much focus and attention is placed on the negativity particularly in terms of men of color, right? So how refreshing is it to know that we have men that take the initiative, have taken the initiative, that are responsible, that come every week on time. The kids can count on them. They know they're there. They know that they care about them. We have several coaches that you interviewed, Nelson Lucena, who we also started a Cub Scout troop in the school where we're creating a model program, because this is a national program. So we have to create models that we can use to demonstrate the effectiveness for other communities throughout the country. We have Larry Golden, Coach McKay, Coach Trey, Coach Yvette. You know, it's not all men.
Right.
You know, Coach Horton. You know, on and on. I don't want to start naming because I don't want to leave anybody out. But there's a whole lot of people throughout the years, and even more recently. But we have quite a few people that we've been blessed to have in as a part of our team.
So that's the Give Back program. I'm sorry, that's the Give Back for Kids campaign, and now you also have the Alpha Eagles Boys Club mentorship program. So let's talk about that.
So we started a boys club as a result of one of the young men in the community, a little boy who was 5 years old, was gunned down in the community. Young Morgan, and he's the same age as my daughter at the time that this happened. This happened in I'd say about 5 years ago. Okay. And that event shook me. It shook me for the fact that the child was the same age as my daughter, and senseless killing of a 5-year-old child in broad daylight is just gut wrenching. So I was in San Francisco when I heard about the incident. I was just kind of scanning the internet, and I said we have to do something. So one of the things that I did was send out a flurry of emails to politicians, Department of Education people about my school. I'm at PS 463, and the need to get our gym renovated. And if we do get our gym renovated, I wanted to use that gym to help to transform the community. And so one of the people that picked up that responded to the email was Helen Diane Foster, who was at the time the city councilwoman in the Bronx. And based on that email, she put in her budget $500,000 to get that gym renovated. Wow. And so, and we're so thankful to her. But we were able to get the gym renovated, and that kind of, and in the span of time of the gym getting renovated, which was over like a 2.5-year period, we created the Alpha Eagles Boys Club, and that was through my fraternity, the Bronx Alphas, and Roadside Lambda chapter, and we were able to really do some really good things. You know, we were able to do some good things, taking the kids on trips to colleges. We took them to like 3 colleges within the Bronx. We speakers, you know, we played chess, checkers, game boards, you know, just positively impacted the kids. But I guess as we got closer to the completion of the gym, I knew that I would have to partner with another group, or we needed to partner with another group within the community that was more specific to Morrisania. So we connected with the Boy Scouts of that community, Troop 777, and we began to work closely with the fathers in that school. And now, as we've developed this basketball league, the fraternity, we have some brothers that are still involved, but it's primarily the Boy Scouts. We actually started a Girl Scout troop as well. Good. And the fathers in the community, and that's the model we always wanted. Even when we were with the Bros, we always knew that we just wanted to be the example of what we wanted them to be. And so that's what we've been able to do.
So how are the young men? How are the young men responding? Because we know, you know, at that age they're just thinking fun, and they have a lot of things going on in their little lives. How are they responding truly to the program? And let's not be specific to those that have been here for a little while. Let's talk about some of the newer ones that have come on, and then let's talk about the ones that you saw from a couple of years ago that you just didn't know if they were going to make it, and how. And I've seen it. That's why I can talk about how they're shining now. Let's talk about those two factors.
So you know, children become what they see, right? So the key is to present positive images for them and bombard them with as many positive images, male role models as possible. So to your point, we can see, first of all, the energy and the excitement of the children just to be involved and be in the presence of black men Hispanic men on a regular basis, that's for them invigorating, because that's not for many of them. They've never had that kind of relationship and that kind of experience with men of color.
Right.
So they welcome it. They look forward to it, and the consistency and the ability for the men to be fully committed has helped, because without that, it could potentially perpetuate a sense of a feeling that men are not reliable, and a negative image that they have, self-image, and they have of men. We've seen success stories, man. We've seen kids develop and grow. Too many to name, too many to name. We've seen mentors. We established a mentoring program. Assemblyman Michael Blake, did an amazing job with his mentee. I think of Brother James Day, and the impact that he had, one of my Alpha fraternity brothers, that he had on not one but two mentees. So we've seen growth, and we've seen positive change, and we do believe that we'll see more in years to come.
I want to go back. I like to carry us forward and then come on back. And I know there was a situation that was it took you through a few turmoil, tumultuous points.
Right.
There was a situation you were in. It took you through some turmoil, and it really impacted you.
Right.
Put you in a real tailspin. Right. I think because of all the good you talk about you're doing now, and all the positive, and we want to keep that. I think it's important too, for whether it's the youngest listener that's saying, well, that's great, but how did he get there? Or that older listener or viewer who's saying, yeah, all he's talking about is this good stuff. We know there's bad things that happen. Mm-hmm. We have this thing that says you got to hit the bottom before you can really reach your top. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about how you really, you hit a rough spot, and you grew yourself from that. You learned some lessons.
Yeah. Well, Larry, you talk about dark moments in one's life, and you live a life of commitment and service, and at a certain point, you possibly take on more than you should. Right? I was president of a community-based organization, running 2 different nonprofit organizations, a full-time job, most importantly, husband, father. And so, but because of the love I have for my community, I sometimes take on too much.
Okay.
And in doing that, you can lose details, and particularly if you're involved with nonprofit organizations, it's important that you kind of stay on point with details. And you have to be careful about the kind of people you get connected with, right? So we had a situation where we had a benefactor, an organization that was giving us money for the nonprofit I Love Our Youth, and that benefactor came to us by way of one of my fraternity brothers who was involved with the Big Brothers Big Sisters of Westchester County. It turned out that benefactor was corrupt in terms of how they were doing their business. Mm-hmm. So as a result of the Attorney General investigating the organization, then they investigated the people that were connected with so the people that they were giving, so we were one of the people. So they go back and review 5 years of your records. So the good thing is we had a bookkeeper, right? Okay. So I was like, good, we're good. The problem is one of the problems is in the learning experience. Our bookkeeper was extremely knowledgeable in for-profit book record keeping. Okay. Not nonprofit record.
Very different. Very different.
Yes.
And that's a good lesson for people. That's a good thing for people to know. Good information.
Yes. So we got caught up there with that. Part 2 of it was that, over 20 years, there are certain expectations that the state has in terms of maintaining your organization. You have to have regular meetings. You have to keep minutes for your meetings. You have to have receipts, records for all the things that you engage in. Okay. And so as time went on, we got loose with that. We weren't as succinct with the record keeping part. But what really got us caught up was when we came upon someone who had offered to give us kind of what we would. My goal was always to build a community center in Hollis, Queens, where I'm from, and so I ran into somebody that made that dream a reality, or thought I could make that dream. Thought they could make that dream a reality for me, and so they were talking about being able to provide resources to make that happen. As it turned out, according to the Attorney General's office, this person wasn't legit. But he was able to galvanize hundreds of people, as it turns out, throughout the country. I'm having lunch and dinner with Spike Lee with this guy. I have Shaquille O'Neal's personal cell number as a result of this gentleman meeting with celebrities and alleged billionaires, confirmed billionaires.
Right.
And so, so we wound up helping to support him. We wound up giving him money to kind of keep his thing going, air flights, train tickets, hotels, food, and no receipts, right?
Wow.
So always believing that if we get the $1 million, we'll be able to get everything in place.
Okay.
We get the resources, we can tighten it up, and we can get everything in place, because when you have money, you can kind of do that. You can hire people to kind of get things in order. We got really in a I personally got hit by the Attorney General, was fined, and my intentions were always honorable and true. Never took money, never wanted to do anything fraudulent, but again, we gave money to people, a person that we shouldn't have. We didn't have the proper oversight at times that we should have, and it was a lesson learned. But it was a tough lesson.
Right.
But it was a lesson learned nonetheless, and you grow from it, like you said.
This must have been a lot of strain on your family as well.
The irony is, here's another lesson: never go into a situation like that without an attorney, which is what I did.
Okay.
I was involved with the Attorney General's office by myself. No one knew, because I was trying to keep it quiet, because we had all these positive things happening.
Right.
I didn't want any negative energy to creep into what we were doing.
Right.
So I tried to contain it. And so when I went into this agreement with them, we had a settlement. It was with the premise, with the belief, what I was told, that would never become public.
Gotcha.
It would never be.
Well, I really enjoy this, and I'm sure we can go on and on and on. But I know at some point we have to cut and move on. I want to thank you for sharing your thoughts, and I'm sure that those watching will get a total view of who you are and what you are, and try and get involved, if not with you, within themselves and within their own communities. I think you want to promote that as well. Mm-hmm. I thank you for involving me and the other parents and I'll be specific, Black and Hispanic men who have kind of pulled themselves up by the bootstraps and say, you know what, we need to help these kids grow. Yes. I thank you personally for doing that and getting involved, and the fact that you're not a native New Yorker. Mm-hmm. You decided this is what I'm going to do to help. And then a native Bronxite, one of the poorest communities in the entire United States, you planted yourself and said, I'm going to make this better. I think we all applaud you and thank you for that assistance.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Hosea Givan, it's a pleasure. It's been a pleasure knowing you, brother, and we'll be here for a while.
Yes, sir. All right, brother.
I want to thank you all for taking the time to watch another episode of Ignite, Empower, Transform. And we give back.